Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2020 UNC Asheville Athletics Hall of Fame induction ceremony. My name is David Jander. I'm the Associate Athletic Director. I'll be your host for this webinar. And as you can tell, this year's ceremony is going to be a little bit different than years past. If any of you are in the Ingalls Mountain View room in the Sherrill Center, you're in the wrong place. You're actually trespassing, and campus security will be there shortly to escort you from the room. So we appreciate everybody being here on Zoom. This is a little bit different, but we certainly are grateful not only for those of you tuning in, but for our inductees and their presenters for being a part of this special day. As you can tell, we're doing this on Zoom, so it's a little bit different. You know, we've all been on a lot of Zoom meetings this year. Zoom meetings are basically seances with the living. We all just walk around saying, "Are you there? Can you hear me? Make a sound if you can hear me." So we're grateful that even though we can't be together in person, we can do this via Zoom. And normally the biggest mystery for our Hall of Fame induction ceremony is whose speech will be the longest. And today it's how many of our inductees and presenters are wearing pants. That's really the biggest mystery today. So what we're going to ask all of our presenters and inductees today, much like your favorite amusement park, please remain seated at all times until we finish. I'm looking at you directly, Mike Gore. But we're looking forward to a great Hall of Fame ceremony. And it's a special day as we honor 3 former Bulldogs, 1 from baseball, another from men's basketball, and then 1 from our women's soccer program. Each one of these inductees have exemplified what it means to be a champion in athletics and a leader in life. So we're thrilled again to be able to do this. Even though we're not in person, we're thrilled to be able to honor these inductees. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our Director of Athletics, and we just talked about before we got on, Janet Cohen. This is our 15th induction ceremony, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, David. And first of all, I want to start by saying congratulations to our inductees. You are joining a very elite group of individuals, Bulldogs, who truly are champions and leaders, as a member of our Hall of Fame. So congratulations. And we're so glad that you could join us this morning, as this is our virtual homecoming weekend too. So things are definitely different, as David mentioned earlier. I particularly want to thank our longtime sponsor, TD Bank and Charles Frederick, for their sponsorship. As David mentioned, Mike Gore started our Hall of Fame 15 years ago, and I'm guessing that TD Bank's been with us maybe 10 years or more sponsoring this event. And we're very, very thankful. I also want to thank our Bulldog Athletic Association board members who support us and support our student athletes by raising scholarship dollars, and those that are joining us today, thank you. Our Hall of Fame members who may be joining us today, and once again, you are joining a group of Hall of Fame members that are just the best that we have at UNC Asheville. So Hall of Fame members that are watching, thank you for joining. I particularly want to thank our Hall of Fame committee, Jim Baker, Rich Davis, Mike Gore, Bryson Lee, who's our student athlete, Mark Rosenbaum, Frederico Santos, Wilma Sherrill, Elizabeth Underwood, and Dr. Robert Yearout, who help us do this. And I can't go further without also thanking Betsy Bloss. Betsy and Mike Gore really drive the Hall of Fame every year, making sure that we are honoring our student athletes and our coaches and administrators that do so much for Bulldog athletics. So I want to thank you again, and I'll turn it back over to David Jander.
Thank you, Janet. I appreciate that. As Janet mentioned, we're lucky to have our presenting sponsor from the Hall of Fame ceremony, TD Bank, with us, and they've been on board for a number of years. In addition to the Hall of Fame, they're wonderful corporate partners of the Bulldogs. And at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Charles. Wait a second, Donna, who wrote this? Great pleasure to introduce Charles. It gives me only mild discomfort to introduce our presenting sponsor from TD Bank, the North Carolina market leader, Mr. Charles Frederick, who, by the way, is a wonderful, wonderful friend of the Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs. Thank you, David. And I'm glad this is being recorded, by the way. So thank you, David. And it is great to see you again. It's hard to believe it's almost a year, as we were talking about earlier. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking it truly has been almost a year since the last time I attended an athletic event at UNC Asheville. I said, and we miss it all so much. The games, meeting, getting to know the student athletes, seeing old friends, making new ones, and being a banker, sometimes maybe even developing a little business along the way. Janet, thank you for all you've done over the past years to grow and develop UNC Asheville athletics, and also developing the community outreach for both the athletic programs and the university. It's meant a lot to the community in Asheville. So again, thank you. And as mentioned, TD Bank is honored and pleased to continue this year as a presenting sponsor, and I believe it is our 10th year. We're trying to figure that out earlier in the week, and I think now we can have that for the record moving forward. In addition, my wife Sandy and I are also proud personal supporters of the university and its athletic program. So again, we try to do all we can to help out in any way we can. But I thought everybody would be on the edge of their seats to hear just a few fun facts about TD Bank. So I just had to throw that in there. But two of the areas that we really are focusing on are the development and the growth for small business, and also diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know these are been in the news a lot lately, but just a couple of things about small business and TD. I think everybody's heard about the PPP loan program that's been going on now off and on for the last year. But TD ranks 6th in the United States in the number of loans we've done for small business, over 88,000 PPP SBA loans. We're the #1 SBA small business lender from Maine to Florida, which is actually our footprint. And J.D. Power and Associates has just recently ranked TD as the #1 small business bank in the Southeast, the #1 in national banking satisfaction, and #1 in retail banking customer satisfaction, which is something we all strive for, and it's going to be hard to repeat those honors, obviously, as the years go ahead. On the DEI side, this is something, again, that takes a lot of focus. For the 5th consecutive year, we've been named one of the best places to work for LGBTQ equality. We're one of the top 50 companies in the United States for diversity. And also Forbes magazine just named us one of the best employers for diversity. So we're proud of all that, but enough about me. I'm sorry, about TD. We're actually here today for the inductees. And again, on behalf of TD Bank, I just want to congratulate this year's all 3 of the inductees and welcome you into the UNC Asheville Athletics Hall of Fame. Back to you, David. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. And believe me, Charles and TD Bank are wonderful friends of UNC Asheville, the Bulldogs, and the Asheville community. So thank you for everything that you do. All right, it's time to move on into our inductions. And Kelsey Dawson, our first inductee this morning, had a wonderful soccer career here at UNC Asheville. And here to introduce Kelsey is fellow UNC Asheville Hall of Fame member, also Big South Conference Hall of Famer, Mike Gore.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. On behalf of Lisa and myself, we congratulate not just Kelsey, but KJ and Alan on this great honor. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. You know, when I think of Kelsey, one of the first things I think about is her first college game at Davidson. And we got beat pretty good, and she had kind of a tough game that game, and she kind of struggled with the physical part of the game. And Michelle Cornish told me and our athletic director at the time, Joni Comstock, that Kelsey's going to be a good player, but she's going to have to adjust to the physical part of the game. Well, it was about 2-3 games later. We were playing at Greenwood Field, and Joni was out there. We were watching the game and stuff, and Kelsey was already our best player. Already defenses knew to go after. So this one particular girl was guarding Kelsey real close and taking some cheap shots at her when the referees weren't looking, you know, kind of hitting her and stuff and everything. And finally, the whistle blew. Kelsey turned around, this time in front of the official, took the girl by the ponytail and threw her to the ground. And now she got a yellow card for that. But that girl never bothered her again. And Kelsey scored 2 goals, and we won the game. And when that yellow card got issued, I remember Joni turned to me. Looks like Kelsey's figured it out pretty good. And boy, what a great career she had for us and stuff. You know, she not only adjusted, but she thrived on the soccer field for us. She never missed a game, never missed a start, and could always be counted on. And something that wasn't put in there about about Kelsey. She also played basketball for us. You know, she was on our basketball team for a couple of years. She was so good. She joined the middle of the season and became a starter right away. So Kelsey was a two-sport starter for UNC Asheville athletics and stuff. And you know, we all enjoyed watching Kelsey play on the field. You know, we loved the way she scored goals. We loved the way she passed the ball and set up her teammates to score goals. And when somebody got in her way, we liked the way she adjusted to that as well and stuff. So, you know, Kelsey, today she becomes the 7th women's soccer player to enter the Hall of Fame. No one worked harder than Kelsey. No one played harder than Kelsey, and no one is more deserving to be in this Hall of Fame today than Kelsey Dawson. Kelsey, welcome. We're proud of you, and congratulations.
At the time of Kelsey's induction, she's the 3rd all-time leading scorer for the UNC Asheville Bulldog women's soccer program in points, 90, goals, 30, and assists, 18. Kelsey was a 4-time All-Big South first-team player. She also earned 4 Big South Player of the Week honors during her playing career. She had one of the program's best single-season performances in 2002 when she tallied 26 points. She played an integral role in helping the Bulldogs reach Big South Conference championship matches in back-to-back seasons in 2002 and 2003. Please welcome to the UNC Asheville Athletics Hall of Fame, Kelsey Dawson.
Thank you, David. And Mike, this is the second time in 10 minutes that I'll have to discuss with my fiance another correction you made, because I told him I never pulled a ponytail in my life. But thank you for that introduction. It's very kind. It only seemed fitting for you to do so, for you to introduce me one last time after all the times on Greenwood Field. You are definitely a part of many of my wonderful memories at UNCA. But my induction into the Hall of Fame is truly such an honor, one of which I am very grateful and will always cherish. You know, walking onto campus, it was small. We were a few days before all the other students got there, but immediately the athletic department was a community and the soccer team was a family. We were wide-eyed and we were terrified, but you know, we jumped right in there under Michelle Cornish, and in practice we would beat each other up, and then the next day we would fight for each other, like I guess you described for me. But first, I'd like to thank you for that introduction. Then to Michelle Cornish, shortly thereafter, she was a very wise and steadfast coach. I thank her for the opportunity to be a Bulldog in the first place, but also for her support, guidance, and leadership. She was the backbone of our team and continued to build and strengthen our core throughout my 4 years there. And back to what you mentioned about the first game discussion, I had no knowledge of. A few years later, you might remember which year we had to determine which game to get my 5th yellow card for me to sit out the next one. I mean, that's pretty bad when you have to strategize when to get a next yellow card. After Michelle, I'd like to thank Julie Barrett, now Julie Schmidt, married to Greg Schmidt, also an integral part of the team and of my growth as a player and teammate. But it was Julie who literally felt like she kept us, the whole AD, alive, I'm sure. In her athletic training room, where she wrapped ankles in record time, monitored my concussions, and massaged my calcium deposits as I tried to climb off the table. She literally almost glued the team together from that small training room. And then to my teammates, thank you for an unforgettable 4 years of love, friendship, and unwavering support. It goes without saying that I wouldn't be here today without all of you, but I also wouldn't be the same woman I am off of the field had it not been for your impact on my life on and off of it. I would use the phrase that there are too many to name, but literally every teammate that was in and out of that locker room with me made a huge impact on me. The times where we had slide tackling training for a few struggling slide tacklers in the rain, to yoga in the gym when it was just too rainy and muddy on Greenwood in the practice fields, and then all the side of the road pit stops that we had traveling to and from games I will never ever forget. But then finally, to my family, I want to thank for my being here now. Mom, I can count on one hand maybe the games that you missed, but I'll never be able to convey my true gratitude for your steadfast support and sometimes loudmouth support for me and every other member of the team. I think we all know your voice and we still hear it sometimes in our dreams. Dad, from the time that I was knee high, I can't recall one game where you didn't come to the sideline, no matter how big the stadium. I mean, acting like it was a community ASO field, and he would pull me over and give me power pellets, which were sweethearts, and would tell me blood, sweat, and tears. So I think, Mike, that goes into the whole yellow card. Dad wasn't the athlete of the family, but he would just tell me blood, sweat, and tears. And then to my siblings, all of whom are older and athletic, who provided me with ample practice time for actual skill building and acknowledgement and learning the concept of blood, sweat, and tears from a tender age. As always, thank you for their love and support, and reluctant agreement that maybe this puts me in line as the favorite child after all. Thank you again to UNCAA Athletics. Mike, thank you for your support. Always, 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 always love seeing your face in and out of Asheville. And congratulations to the other inductees.
Thank you so much, Kelsey, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, our next inductee is Alan Durat, a former baseball player for the Bulldogs. And here to introduce Alan is again, Mike Gore.
Thank you very much, David. And I am delighted to introduce the greatest pitcher to ever pitch for UNC Asheville in Alan Derrad. Alan taught all of us how to persevere. He was a starting pitcher right off the bat as a freshman on a team that only won 11 games. But Alan was there each and every time, getting better and better. And I think all of us who watched him realize that we were watching something special develop at UNC Asheville and Alan Durant. Who can ever forget his sophomore year, and especially the Big South tournament? It was a big news that the year before we'd finished in last, and our goal was just to get to the Big South tournament. That was an upset, just that we got there. And as the 6th seed, playing top seed Birmingham Southern, Alan pitched one of the greatest games in school history by throwing a 3-hit shutout against Birmingham Southern. And that was the start of an incredible run that our baseball team would make. He would help end the run in the Big South championship game on 2 days rest and a sore arm. He came out of the bullpen with us down 10-5, and he shut down a great Liberty attack. And UNC Asheville rallied to win the game 16-11. And obviously, we had a lot of big hits in that game, but it wasn't for Alan's relief pitching on a sore arm that had thrown a lot of pitches throughout the season in that Birmingham Southern game that got us there. So that got us to the NCAA tournament and our only Big South Conference baseball championship. Looking at his senior year, he had one of the most dominating seasons, not just in UNC Asheville history, but in Big South history. He was our top pitcher. He finished with 8 wins and a microscopic 1.74 ERA. Think about that. He was the starting pitcher in I think like 28 games and gave up less than 2 runs a game over 9 innings in a great, against a great schedule. I think of 2 games stand out to me his senior year. One was against Liberty. Liberty had hired a new coach, and Alan was off to a great start. He was 5-0. His ERA was below 1. But when I got the lineup from the new Liberty coach, he was asking me a little about Alan, and he had looked at what Alan had done. He said, but he hasn't faced a lineup like ours yet. He's had some success, but when he faces our lineup? Well, all Alan did was throw a 4-hit shutout, strike out 10, and beat Liberty 9-0. The next day, I couldn't wait to go see that coach again, and he just said, please tell me that Alan Durat's a senior. I said, yeah, he's a senior. And he was a little bit more humble after that game. And then I think about the last game he ever pitched for UNC Asheville. Alan was against High Point in the Big South tournament up in Danville, Virginia. We had to be in the elimination game. We didn't finish as high as we wanted to finish. And you just wouldn't let us lose. You pitched 10 complete innings. We won 3-2. But what I remember is that every time High Point got a leadoff runner on from the 6th inning on, they tried to bunt the runner over. And Alan just wouldn't let it. He just wouldn't let it happen. He pounced off the mound. He got to the bunt and threw out the leading runner in pressure situations. We won 3-2, kept our season alive, and what a perfect way for Alan to end his college career was in that great game against the High Point when he just simply would not let us lose. He's the only Bulldog to ever be named Big South Pitcher of the Year, and that was done unanimously in 2008. Only the coaches vote on that. And there's some pretty good egos in the Big South coaching, in Big South baseball coaching, but they all agreed on Alan being the best pitcher in the Big South. If you read his bio, we know that Alan pitched for the Asheville Tourists for a couple of years, and Tourist fans got to enjoy what we enjoyed for 4 years about what a great pitcher and what a great person Alan is. Alan, you're so deserving of this. Congratulations. Welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Alan, before I go through your accolades, Coach Friedholm would like to know if we can get you to Johnson City, 2 o'clock or 5. We have a doubleheader today, so just keep that in mind. Alan Durat, as Mike mentioned, is one of the top pitchers in the history of the UNC Asheville Bulldog baseball program. He ranks high atop the program's all-time leaderboard in strikeouts, 247, games started, 55, innings pitched, 365 plus, wins 22, and shutouts 2. In perhaps his best season, Durat posted a 1.74 ERA as a senior, on his way to securing Big South Pitcher of the Year and all Big South first team honors. His impact pitching in the Big South was recognized as he was named to the Big South's all-decade team as well. Following his time in Asheville, Durat was drafted in the 17th round by the Colorado Rockies. In 4 seasons pitching in the Rockies organization, he reached each of the organization's affiliates, including parts of 2 seasons with the local Asheville Tourists. Durat wrapped up his playing career with a 4-year stint in independent baseball, pitching for the Sioux Falls franchise in the American Association of Professional Baseball. Please welcome to the UNC Asheville Athletics Hall of Fame, Alan Durat.
Thanks, David. I want to thank Mike Gore first. I couldn't ask for a better person to introduce me. You are a UNCA legend. And first and foremost, I would like to start off by thanking some people who helped me get this great honor. I would like to thank my mom and dad. This would not have been possible without the influence they had on me. Mom played softball at Carolina, and my dad played baseball at Carolina, which really set the example for me. Each of them playing catch with me in the yard was vital for shaping my future as a baseball player. Their commitments to me for all sports was unmatched. My dad knew when to push me, but also knew when to support me and build my confidence. My mom was always there for my confidence, just like most mothers. Baseball is a sport where you need people to develop. There is only so much hitting off a tee and throwing against a wall you can do. That's why the old saying, a baseball player is made, not born, is so true. Partly why I love basketball so much is you didn't need someone else to help you get better. You just needed a basketball goal and a ball. Just to give you an example of my dad, after high school basketball practice, and shout out to Joey, we used to play against each other in high school. Anyway, after basketball practice, he'd be waiting in the parking lot with a bucket of balls. And I'm talking even in a cold December when I just got done running 20 suicides in practice, he'd be waiting for me. And he knew what it took for me to be at my best come February, when the season would start. Even when long toss got to be too long, he'd sometimes bring a fungo and hit them back to me. He'd always ask first, though, if I wanted to do it. He wanted it to be my decision. And that was the foundation set. I came to UNCA thanks to a man named Matt Myers, who recruited me. Coach Myers ended up leaving and taking a position at Auburn before I could get a chance to play for him. Willie Stewart would become my head coach. He was a man you didn't want to let down. You always wanted to play hard for him because you knew he was working hard for you. Willie later wouldn't just be my head coach, he would become a good friend as well. Freshman year was, like Mike said, was a struggle. I had a 9 ERA, and as Mike had said, out of those 11 wins, I did get one of them. I was 1-10. So thanks to my teammates like Tony Wall, who, as they said, kept me from the edge. He was there for me during that time. But anyway, I went off that summer and kind of redefined my game and got back to some things that made me successful in high school. Sophomore year, I started working on some mechanics and seemed like overnight my velocity had increased. And that year was by far the most fun I've ever had in baseball. I've never experienced anything like that ever before. We became the Big South champs, like Mike had said, from the last place seed. It was a Cinderella story. We would go on to play down in the regionals at Clemson. That team will be remembered forever in UNCA baseball history. Roommates over the years that kept me humble, I'd like to thank Chris Nigro, Brett Robinson, Matt Henson, and Tony Wall. Junior year was a rough beginning, as a lot of y'all know. I was recovering from a snapped ankle that I'm sure some of you heard on the soccer field up top. But I still finished strong that year. And then senior year was an accumulation of all the hard work I'd put in over the years in the weight room. That summer, I was fully dedicated to my body and pitching program. Catchers, I couldn't have done it without you. J.K. Whited, it was a beautiful thing when we were in sync. And then Reed Chrysler came in my senior year and didn't miss a beat as well. To the guys that caught my bullpens, Justin Wilkins, Edmund Locklear, Wes Skidmore, and Danny Lammers, I thank you as well. This honor would not have been possible without all my teammates I had. Kevin Madison saved my ERA a ton of times out in center field. Matt Henson, Kyle Smith, Kevin Wiedenbacher, and Kat Carter up the middle saving runs for me as well. I'd also like to thank Tom Smith as well for not only his support my senior year, but just being there for me after. He's been a great friend, and guys that have been there with me for all 4 years as freshmen to seniors, Elliot Arrington, Ben Buchanan, Kevin Madison. I'd like to thank you for pushing me and some more supporting me along the way. Also, I'd like to thank Janet Cohen and Betsy Blows for everything y'all have done over the years for me. And lastly, I want to thank my wife, Allison, for putting up with me these last several years. I love you. And just wanted to say, you know, it really has come full circle because nowadays I'm playing sports out in the yard with my son, Ryder. And maybe one day he'll have as much passion in something as I had in baseball. I like to finish with UNCA was my life, not just for 4 years, but as many of you know, seeing me around campus years and years later, from coaching afterward to working out with the new guys that were coming in to get ready for my professional season, UNCA has been my second family.
Thank you so much, Alan, and congratulations again on your induction. That's wonderful. All right, our final inductee is KJ Garland, a former men's basketball player for the Bulldogs, and is someone who coached against KJ. If I go through some PTSD moments through this, please bear with me. Here to introduce KJ is one of his former teammates and a current Bulldog Athletic Association board member, Joey Harrell.
Good morning. So I was asked to just give a couple stories, quick stories. So anybody that knows KJ and I, you know that we literally have a million stories. So here's two. Our freshman year, our very first game, we were going to play NC State. And so I believe, KJ, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was the dinner the night before where Coach Nash came and sat down with KJ, Steve Rush, and I. And he asked us, who do you guys think is going to score the first point and how's it going to be? And so we're sitting there guessing, like, what, you know, so maybe I'll get it on a tip and off a rebound. Maybe Steve will hit a three or KJ will get a pull up or something. And I don't remember what ended up happening in that game, but it was pretty unremarkable for all of us, if I remember. But that next game, we go to Iowa and KJ goes for 22. And so I remember Steve and I kind of looking at each other like, oh, yeah, well, he's the one. Like, he's different. And so at that point, we kind of made it our running joke that we were just going to be his agents and we just wanted to buy his hotel. So we had a saying, KJ Garland won't accept less than 20 mil. Like that was our running joke the whole time, right? So at that point, we knew that he was special, right? But the second part of it is, you know, everybody that saw him play knew how good he was, right? That was obvious. But what they didn't see was, you know, after conditioning, practice, weights, all this kind of stuff, and then dinner, we go to the room and hang out for a little bit. But then KJ picks up his basketball 9 o'clock at night and walks to the gym and dribbles for an hour or shoots for an hour and a half or whatever. And that was almost every single day. And so I wanted to point that out because he's here because of the work. And I was his roommate for 4 years, so I saw it every single year. And so, you know, I want you guys to realize that, like, KJ had a level of dedication and discipline that got him here. And, you know, I'm very proud of him for that. And he's absolutely to be commended. So KJ, proud of you, man. I wish we could do this in person and really have a big celebration and everything, but you definitely earned this.
Thank you so much, Joey. KJ Garland was one of the top scorers to ever play for UNC Asheville, and I can vouch for that. He scored 1,363 points during his time with the men's basketball program. He ranks near the top in career assists, 520, steals, 153, and in three-pointers made with 144. He was a four-year starter for the Bulldogs. He also broke the school record for minutes played in a season with 1,217 in his senior year. As a senior, KJ was selected to the All Big South second team. He also made the all-tournament team, as well as helping the Bulldogs win the Big South regular season championship and make an appearance in the National Invitational Tournament, the NIT. Please welcome to the UNC Asheville Athletics Hall of Fame, KJ Garland.
Hello, and thank you for the kind words, Charles and Joey. I appreciate the favorable words and the regaling tales. Hope everyone is well and made it out of 2020 relatively unscathed. I know it was a long 3 years for me personally, but it's unfortunate, as Joey said, that we couldn't do this in person. But you know, our world is defined by distance now, if not division. But nonetheless, I appreciate all who have gathered this morning to help Kelsey, Alan, and myself celebrate this occasion. So my dad introduced me to the game of basketball at the age of 4. By 11, I was traveling across the state, up and down the East Coast, seemingly every weekend for tournaments. But it wasn't until I was 16 that I began to take the game seriously. That's when I fell in love with the game. Many mornings I would get up at 6 and go to the YMCA before school to practice. Then I would go to team practice or play pickup after school. And then at night I'd dribble around our cul-de-sac, no doubt to the delight of my neighbors. But that became a typical day for me. And it most probably explains the arthritis that I've developed in the big toe joint of both of my feet. You hate to see it. But I can remember at least 2 4th of Julys in which I remained on campus by myself. I broke into I let myself into the Justice Center through a bathroom window, which had been conveniently left open so that I could work out. And even as recently as 2013, I was getting up at 5:30 to train before arriving at the office. So basketball was my first love. And I held on to it for dear life for as long as I could. It was exceedingly difficult to let it go, almost devastating. I love the game. And I guess kind of as an aside, you know, to all my teammates and coaches, I know I haven't seen or even spoken to many of you in some time. It's not because I forgot about the impact or contributions you made or, you know, the good times we shared, but I had to find a way to move on. And if that meant letting go of some situations or even some people, that's kind of how I, you know, coped with it. So I asked for your forgiveness in that regard. But like I said, I love the game. I didn't play for the acclaim. I didn't play for the accolades. And I didn't think my career merited such an honor as this. I had a high standard for myself and I didn't feel like I met that standard or those expectations. And I honestly viewed my career as a failure. So to be recognized in this way and to see that those on the outside had a more positive perspective is gratifying. And so I want to thank the members of the Hall of Fame committee and those involved in the selection process and all who considered my career befitting of this honor. Also want to thank the people who helped me along the way. My high school coach, Freddie Johnson, always treated me like I was a part of his family. He and Coach Shelton helped me understand the concept of team basketball and personal sacrifice. Their emphasis on discipline and structure prepared me for my collegiate experience at UNCA. Coach Biedenbaugh, you know, not everybody gets a chance to play for a coach with the playing success of Coach B. He was a point guard at NC State, drafted by the Lakers. And so as a point guard myself, excuse me, I was honored that Coach B thought enough of me to give me an opportunity. Although I suspect he regretted it having given me that opportunity, although I suspect he regretted having given me that opportunity when I showed up to my first game at NC State without my sneakers. Joey, you left that part of the story out. But I think as a punishment, he played me 15 of the most uncomfortable minutes I've ever spent on a basketball court. And low top cross trainers that I had borrowed from a teammate that were a size too small. But I am extremely grateful to Coach B, as well as the other assistant coaches who played a role in my recruitment and development, both as a basketball player and as a person. There are so many teammates to thank as well. I wish there was time to give each of you your due. Just a fun group of guys to be around. My first few years at UNCA, we didn't do a lot of winning, candidly, but we had some of the most enjoyable 9-20 seasons you could imagine. And mainly because of how much we genuinely liked each other. I could amuse you with stories if there were time, but I appreciate all of you. I miss the fun times and the camaraderie we shared on and off the court. A family, Mom, it's almost impossible to put into words the impact you've had on my life. You're the type of person I aspire to be. You're always thinking of others. I can make the case that you've been as much of a mother to me in the past year as in any other period of my life. You've set a worthy example. You're an inspiration, and I love you. To my father, I've thanked you for much over the years, but I don't think I've ever thanked you for putting the basketball in my hand. There were no shortage of sacrifices that you made so that I might have the opportunity to fulfill my dreams. I can recall at least 2 occasions as a child where you got off of work on a Saturday morning, having worked a 12-night shift, and drove to my game in Florida, demonstrating love and sacrifice, as well as an impressive contempt for wisdom and discernment. But I thank you for all the coaching. I thank you for the times you would walk into the rec center and catch me upstairs playing foosball and lovingly berate me by asking, do you want to be a foosball player or a basketball player? I thank you for introducing me to the game and for the man that you raised me to be. And finally, last but not least, I'd like to thank God, who has blessed me with the talents, the resources, family, coaches, the opportunities that I've had. But God has gone far beyond those temporary blessings. As I briefly alluded to earlier, we live in a world fraught with division and dissent and inequality and inequity. And there are many cries for justice. Unfortunately, these have always been characteristics of humanity and always will be. We can fight to limit them, but ultimately we won't eradicate them, because these issues are endemic to the human race and are consequences of sin. And so I am grateful because God has bestowed upon me and us the greatest gift of all. That is, he sent his son, Jesus Christ, who lived the sinless life I could not and died the death I deserved, so that in this temporary life, I might not receive justice, but through my faith in Jesus, I also will not receive final justice from God, but instead unending mercy and everlasting life. I appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you, KJ, and congratulations again. Folks, wherever you might be, if you could join me in your own virtual round of applause, please again help us welcome into the UNC Asheville Athletics Hall of Fame the 2020 class, Kelsey Dawson, Alan Durat, and KJ Garland. And before I bring back Janet to make some closing remarks, Kelsey, I need to apologize. My giant head has been blocking your picture this entire ceremony. I just realized, my gosh, it's terrible. I'm so sorry, Kelsey, for that. You didn't deserve that. Once again, Director of Athletics, Janet Cohn.
Wow, it's kind of hard to follow the 3 of you talking, but I want to say this sincerely on behalf of all the Bulldogs, and particularly for all of the coaches and what I call the team behind the team members like Mike Gore and Betsy and David and I. When we come to work every day, we live for a day like today that shows that there is so much value in being a Division I athlete and attending a school like UNC Asheville, because when we see what you are now and how you relate to the experience you have, it makes it all worthwhile coming here. And, KJ, I watched those 4 years of you in the Justice Center. We're playing with Joey and Coach B and the coaching staff. You are as deserving of this as anyone who's in the Hall of Fame. Phenomenal memories of us being in there, and probably the Gorster trying to hold Eddie back from some referees and those kinds of things. But watching you be a leader on the court, and also for what you just shared with us now, being a leader in life and a champion, I truly feel blessed that I'm even listening to this morning. So thank you for sharing. Alan, you know, I saw you were getting a little teary-eyed, and I relayed this earlier to the group before we got on. I've been in this business a long time. Mike Gore has been too, but I'll never forget the experience of being down at Coastal Carolina and that championship run and what you did, and your teammates did to achieve that comeback victory is one of my all-time highlights of anything I've ever witnessed on TV or in person. And also your senior year, phenomenal. And that you got teary-eyed also shows how valuable it is that we continue to provide experiences, not only what you guys got, but for future Bulldogs, that this is a meaningful experience that can really change people's lives, and the relationships that we build with your coaches and your teammates are unbelievable. And our baseball alums are some of the best we have. I will tell you this, they're phenomenal. And Kelsey, when I think that you played for the great Michelle Cornish and those teams, and people that are listening, if you don't know, we dominated in women's soccer. I mean, dominated under the leadership of Coach Cornish and the student athletes like Kelsey that she recruited right there on Greenwood Field, you know, right on Greenwood Field, and such great experiences. And I know you value that too. And Kelsey, I want to thank you for being here. So, you know, when we've been here now doing this for a while, and Mike Gore and I constantly talk about, you know, champions in athletics and leaders in life. And when we ask sponsors like TD Bank to sponsor us, we say pretty clearly, you're investing in something that will last forever because you're helping us change lives. And I think our Hall of Fame ceremony continues to show that. And I want to say on behalf of Chancellor Nancy Cable, who could not be here today, that we're proud of you. We love you to death. And we are inspired every day by what you are doing, not only what you did in your career here, but what you're doing now. Even that guy, Joey Harrell, I get to see him about every day up there. You know, there's so many Bulldogs out there wherever you are, which is our theme for homecoming. You know, you should be proud that you went to UNC Asheville, but we're really proud of you as Bulldogs. So I want to thank everybody again. And one more shout out to Donna Peak and Betsy behind the scenes, always make this happen, and Mike Gore. So thank you, everyone. And as I always say, and I hope I get to keep saying this because I'm going to be a Bulldog forever. Go Bulldogs. Love everybody. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.